Hey all, Bree from the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I have got a gift for you this holiday season. If you love the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I mean love the No Guilt Mom podcast, then tell us about it. Leave us a review, and you can be entered to win a No Guilt Mom gift card. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and then simply go to noguiltmom.com/review to enter our giveaway for a free No Guilt Mom gift card, simply for telling us what you think about the podcast. It is amazing. But don't delay. Get right on this, as we're going to be giving away that No Guilt Mom gift card on December 21st. So get right on over and visit noguiltmom.com/review.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by my stripey co-host, Bree Tucker.
Well, hello, everybody. How are you?
You're stripey. I'm using clothing again to describe you.
Okay, that's
sorry.
so funny. Because I was just listening to, it's a Thursday we're recording this, so I was just listening to a podcast we released this morning. And again, you had mentioned my shirt. And I'm like,
I need to get some better adjectives to describe Bree. So if anyone has any ideas, I've used a lot of them already. I feel like I don't want to repeat. No repeats.
I was thinking you'd go with sleepy.
Sleepy? Oh, we are talking sleep today. That's a good segue.
Or caffeinated. Either way, you know.
Or caffeinated. Yeah, I just had, I was just telling Brie, I had to go downstairs and get coffee because I had a headache and then I was really crabby. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did I have coffee today? No, I did not have coffee. And I think that's a really telltale sign of a caffeine addiction. When you're like not on time with your coffee and you're like, get your headaches and you get the shakes and no.
Okay, you are correct. That is, but I will argue that you don't have I know people that have a lot more of a caffeine addiction than either you or I do.
Yeah.
We both are a one coffee a day person.
Yeah, I do not drink that much.
Yeah, like before 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much like our coffee thing. It's funny though about the whole coffee addiction because I went in to get a coffee yesterday from my new favorite coffee shop across the street.
Yeah.
And I normally go on Wednesdays. And the girl that was serving me has just started working Wednesdays for a few weeks now. And I'm like, yeah, can I get one of my snickerdoodle latte with soy? Uh-huh. And she's like, you're not getting a second? And I went, a second? She goes, yeah, you normally order two, one without ice so you can have it for Thursday. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Thank you. And she just giggled. She's like, I tell that to people all the time now. Do you want a second with no ice for the next day?
That is a very good upsell. That's a very good upsell. She's a smart barista.
You know me. If there's a shortcut, I had forgotten I had been ordering that for a while. On Wednesdays, I order my 2 coffees. So that way I have a Thursday morning coffee and it doesn't make me later than normal.
That's a good hack. Yeah, because I think you said, I found this meme when I was on vacation and I sent it to Bree because I thought it was really funny because Bree is habitually late and she admits this.
Yeah.
She admits this. The meme had on top, it was like, oh my gosh, the traffic was horrible. I'm sorry I'm late. And then it says the traffic and it's the line at Starbucks.
Yep. 100%. It
was the best. I was like,
the traffic was terrible at Starbucks. Yes.
Because that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But today we are talking all about back to school and sleep schedules, something that we are both kind of a little concerned about going into the school year.
Oh, yes, for sure. Like we were talking about this before we started recording because many of us in our households, it has been over a year since our kids have had to go to in-person school on a consistent 5-day-a-week basis.
Yeah, many people haven't been in person. Here in Arizona, we've been in person for a bit.
Well, but it also depended on the school because there were some districts that never did 5 days a week.
And it also depends on the family's choice because I know a lot of families chose virtual learning for the entire school year and now they're transitioning back to the homeschool. We just have to get back on the routine and we a little concerned because, for instance, in my house, I really protect my sleep. I protect it hard and I protect my alone time at night hard because if my kids are still up, I can't fully relax and read because someone's usually coming in and asking me a question every 5 seconds. Or
those are good boundaries.
Yes, they're good boundaries.
They're
I protect
good,
it hard.
Healthy boundaries.
So for the past few months of summer though, those have slipped a little bit, especially going on vacation and kids were going to bed at 10 p.m. at night on vacation, which is so makes me uncomfortable as someone who protects sleep hard.
Yeah. Were you uncomfortable on vacation that they were going to bed that late, or did it not bother you at that time, but now reflecting back a week later, it's like...
It didn't bother me at that time because I didn't feel tired on vacation.
Okay.
Because we were all sleeping in.
Yeah.
And it was like San Diego, cloudy skies. The sun wasn't shining in my bedroom window to wake me up in the morning.
The beach lifestyle of like, hey, we'll do whatever we feel like today.
Yeah. So, but it was like 10 p.m. and now bedtime is about 9. And I like to push bedtime to like 8. Like we start getting ready 8-ish. And then 8:30, everybody's in their room like winding down. And that's harder. That's harder now because my daughter's going into 8th grade and she definitely has a lot more control over what she wants to do and when she wants to do it. And she wants to stay up later, which I totally respect. But it's hard waking everybody up.
It is. It is. So that is why we pulled out the big guns. We got a sleep expert, Nicole Johnson, for today's episode.
Nicole Johnson, you might know her from the Baby Sleep site, and she is the president and lead sleep consultant there. She's an extension of a New Mom's Village and helps families achieve better sleep in a way that fits their parenting philosophy and a baby's temperament and personality. So we go like the whole gamut here.
Yeah.
Like babies, toddlers we talk about, like especially if you're going back to work. She has some great tips on how to adjust babies and toddler sleep schedules. And we talk about school-age kids, and then we go a little bit into the teenagers too. So all ages in this episode.
You got a kid, we got it covered.
We got it covered. So we hope that you enjoy our interview with Nicole Johnson. My son is playing a game right now on his computer where he's a thief and the cops are after him. So I'm so excited about this new app, Give As We Grow, where instead of being the quote unquote bad guys, kids are practicing giving back.
That is so cool, Joanne. I really wish that there was something like this when my kids were younger that got them excited about giving back to others and helped them build a better understanding of what it really means to volunteer.
Give As We Grow is the first of its kind free educational mobile app for children ages 8 to 11 that teaches kids via fun, service-focused minigame quests to tap into their unique talents and interests to help others.
And did you know that studies show that there is a biological connection between generosity and happiness, and that volunteering improves people's physical and mental health? I mean, kids who volunteer typically do better in school and are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. And that is something that I think we all want for our kids.
Ready to spark a new movement in generosity? Find and download Give As We Grow for free in the App Store for Android and iOS. And for resources for the whole family, visit giveaswegrow.org. This message is sponsored by Greenlight. It is so hard to raise kids who know how to manage money. Bree, right now, my kids are all about earning money for presents. My daughter wants to get presents for all of her friends, and my son is doing a Secret Santa with his friends.
Oh, I hear you. And if you're looking to raise kids that are financially responsible, we have got a lifesaver recommendation for you that you need to check out. It is Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that gives kids and teens an easy and fun way to gain financial literacy, all while giving parents peace of mind.
You can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and even keep an eye on kids' spending with real-time notifications. Meanwhile, your kids can begin their journey towards financial autonomy by learning how to save, invest, and spend wisely.
So sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/NGM.
That's greenlight.com/NGM to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/NGM. Hey, so if you are worried about getting your kids back into like the school life with homework and study habits, come and join us. Our live event right now is going on. It's right now. Homework Simplified. It is live. You get to meet Bree and me live online and ask any questions that you have about study habits, about communicating with the school, about making sure that your kids are doing their homework and getting readjusted post-pandemic life. So you can go sign up, noguiltmom.com/homework. We will see you there. And now on with the show. You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom Podcast. Hey, Nicole, we are so happy to have you here on the No Guilt Mom Podcast to talk all things sleep. So welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So for those of our listeners who don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about you and your story?
Sure. Okay. My name is Nicole Johnson, and I'm the president and lead sleep consultant of the Baby Sleep Site. I've been married to my husband for 17 years now, and I have two sons, 13 and 15 years old. My first son hated sleep, and even at 15, he would still somewhat say it's a waste of time, even though he's a teenager, so now I have to drag him out of bed sometimes, but he really hated sleep. So I started the Baby Sleep Site in June 2008, so over 13 years ago, when my youngest was just a couple months old, because I must have been crazy. The Baby Sleep Site is designed to be an extension of your village. You know, you can ask questions, get support, and of course, help your children sleep better. But one thing about us is we don't believe like there's a one size fits all approach for every child. Like every child is different, temperament wise, personality wise. So both my sons had very different temperaments. So I started doing a lot of different research about sleep and trying to get him to sleep better. And then my youngest came along, and he was a better sleeper, but he also had a few problems. So I started just learning a lot about temperament and different things. Then I started helping other parents with what I knew. And a few of them asked me, maybe you should write a book because the way you explain it is just more practical, different, And I guess at first I just laughed that off, but enough people said that eventually I was like, well, maybe I'll make a blog. So fast forward now 13 years, we've helped, thousands of parents with their family struggles. I try to help other people faster than I could help my own children. And now we get, over 500,000 to 1 million visitors at the website every month. So, it's been really fun.
I'd say that's pretty successful.
Yes, that's amazing.
Yes.
Sleep is always a very conflict-filled subject in my home because two of us, me and my son, we like to go to bed early and we like our sleep. Like there's a certain time at night, like we just hit a wall and we're like, nope, not doing anything else.
Yes.
My daughter and my husband are exactly the opposite. They will
Night
keep
owls.
going and going and going. Yeah, the night owls. And so when they were both like babies, it was hard because, well, I don't function without sleep. And
Yeah.
And I know some people do, like my husband does function without sleep. And so coming across like your information as to how like to balance the parents' need for sleep with the kids' need for sleep, but getting everyone on the same page so they're not fighting. As you can see, this is very stressful for me.
Yes, definitely.
And I think that you had a really great point there. Like no two kids are the same. When my kids were little, I used to say that I could write a paragraph on their similarities, but a book on their differences.
Yes.
And I think I had a similar situation to you, like where my son, he did not sleep through the night. And I'm going with like that whole technical definition of between the hours of 12 and 5 a.m. Like he did not sleep through the night until he was 3. So for 3 years, never once did I get, I think no, I never did get a full night's sleep. I was going to say, I remember one time my ex-husband turned off the baby monitor to let me like sleep in.
Yes.
But no, he still got up in the middle of the night. So, and then my daughter, when she was born a year later, like we'd have to wake her to feed her. I'd be like, I'm a little concerned. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, and it's just funny how that goes. Like the differences.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. My son woke up every 1 to 2 hours all night. And I'm actually someone who can function on little sleep. So for me to struggle, it was a huge eye opener for me. And, and then every time he woke me up, it took me 20 minutes to go back to sleep. So it was just really brutal for me. And I was very irritable.
Oh my gosh. I think we were all different people when our kids were young and not sleeping.
Exactly. I was going to say, like, I have fond memories of when my kids were really little and struggled with sleep, but not enough I would ever want to go back.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at the same time, though, we're reminiscing right here on the younger ages, but sleep is a struggle that it pops up again, right?
Yes.
So like our focus is like, we're talking about back to school sleep schedules. And I was just telling Joanne how it's going to be interesting in our household. Because right now over the summer, my daughter has been going to bed about midnight. and she gets up about noon. I mean, I could wake her up earlier, but why?
So, yes.
I just get the angry. She's like a cat. She just hisses at me. So, so then I just run away.
Yes. Definitely.
So we realize that like sleep is important, but our kids don't necessarily realize that sleep is important. Right. So like, how do we start communicating this to them so that we have a successful back to school when they have to wake up?
Yes, so that's what's going to be the challenge, is convincing them. But of course, we're parents and we have more wisdom than they do sometimes. So sometimes we have to, be the bad guy. But getting back to school schedule, I would say if you have 2 or 3 weeks to do, you can start early, and then it could be a more gradual change. If you don't, or if you prefer not to, you can always do it a little bit more abruptly. But essentially, what I recommend is first adding a little structure back to your day, even if it's just like a set wake up time and a set bedtime, even if it's late at first, like not what would be at school, but in your case might be 11 p.m. bedtime and waking up at 10 a.m., for example, or something like that. Then that can just kind of start getting you in the mode of having structure and that kind of thing. Also, a set time to turn off devices sometimes is a good idea, 30 minutes to an hour before. That's true for adults too. We all sleep a little bit better if we're not staring at devices, but I know as much as anybody that it's sometimes hard to do. And then as far as like how much sleep, you do want to shoot for at least 10 to 11 hours of sleep at night. Or if you know that your child needs 12 hours, then you would shoot for that, so that you can make sure that they're going to get enough sleep. So that would be like the first step, I would say.
So like readjusting that sleep schedule, doing it in a gradual way as we get closer and closer to back to school. And then the devices are huge.
Oh, yes. We're big proponents of that for sure.
Turn off Wi-Fi.
Right. And there's so much research about what the blue light
does to your brain. And it just keeps you up. And it's hard, though, when you're an adult and you're trying to like tell your parenting partner that it does this. And that doesn't work as well.
Well, especially when they're, like you just said, when it's someone that has a different sleep schedule than you, that can stay up a lot longer. It can be a lot harder to get them to really hear what you're saying.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we're hitting that time of year where my brain gets so overloaded in December that I look for anything to make life easier. And I have to say, Brie, that Green Chef is one of those services.
Yes. Green Chef is there to take away the dreaded, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? You can eat clean all holiday long with over 80 weekly meal options each week, featuring things like quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, or my personal favorite, the keto options.
And you don't have to lose track of healthy eating habits during the holidays, because every Green Chef customer gets a free session with one of their registered dietitians who can walk you through how to make clean eating work for you, which is very cool.
And I have to say that I have been loving their recipes lately. They put things together I have never thought of. This week, we're trying the lemon basil caper pork with sauteed cauliflower, bell peppers, almonds, and feta cheese, my favorite. Their recipes make it so easy to support my wellness goals without skipping on flavor.
For Green Chef's best deal of the year, get $250 off with code NGM250 at greenchef.com/NGM250. That's greenchef.com/NGM250. And don't forget to use that code NGM250 to get $250 off.
Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Hey, Aubrey here, and I wanted to share one of my favorite gifts to give during the holiday season, a Storyworth book. It is the most amazing gift ever. Storyworth is an online service that lets you create a special and unique gift of someone's story. I've given Storyworth books to both of my parents, and it has been their favorite gift, hands down. And did I mention it is so easy? Storyworth emailed my parents questions every week that I handpicked from their massive list of questions that they have. All my parents had to do was open their email and answer them. That easy. I asked my dad questions like, did you have any rules that you set for yourself as a parent, which you immediately broke? And he did. I even asked both of my parents, are you more like your mom or your dad? And they shared a lot of really amazing qualities that I didn't know about my grandparents at the time. Then at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles all of their answers, puts them into this gorgeous book that covers everything. My parents love showing us their books, and I personally love getting a chance to read them. With Storyworth, I am giving those I love a thoughtful and personal gift from the heart that preserves their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com storyworth.com/NGM and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/NGM to save $10 on your first purchase.
What does like overtired look like in kids? Like, how do we know if they're getting enough sleep?
Yeah, so at different ages, you'll see different things. So babies showing overtiredness, they might have red rimmed eyes, bags under their eyes. They might be fussier, crying, rubbing their eyes. That's a big sign that they're overtired. And if they wake up from their sleep periods crying, that would be another thing. If they show any of these symptoms, they're probably already overtired. Unfortunately, well, I don't know if that's fortunately or unfortunately, but some babies actually are very happy when they're overtired. So for them, you might see them wake up more at night, wake up too early in the morning, just fussy crying, going to sleep, that kind of thing, where they might be super happy during the day, but if they're not getting enough sleep, it still can impact you at night and keep you up. Now, toddlers, they have basically the same signs, but they also might have more tantrums during the day. Their mood and behavior are the best ways to know if they're getting enough sleep. Of course, some toddlers, they're going to test limits and that kind of stuff. That's normal, but the more tired they are, the more emotional they are. So you'll probably see more tantrums. And then for school-age children, in addition to being irritable, sometimes they're going to be, cranky and that kind of thing. They might have difficult focusing at school, for example. They're often more clumsy. They will likely have some behavior issues either at school, home, or both. They might talk back more, that kind of thing.
Have you heard the research out there that says a lot of school behavior problems are directly related to lack of sleep?
That does not surprise me at all. I mean, even my kids, I always say our happiness as a family is dependent on, especially in particular, my older son who inspired the website, that he's getting enough sleep because he is grumpy, and he was grumpy from being a baby all the way till now. I mean, he is definitely a different person if he's not getting enough sleep. So I can believe that a lot of school behavior problems probably have children that just aren't getting enough sleep in general.
I totally find it fascinating because I was a former teacher, and I would see the kids who are constantly kind of pushing limits and testing boundaries and not reacting emotionally very well. And just knowing that and looking back at them, it seems like such a simple problem to solve, sleep. And yet it's something that we struggle with so much.
Yes, definitely. And, the hard part, especially as we're talking about getting back to the school schedule, you'll want to start gradually waking your child up earlier and earlier. One big thing that a lot of people don't understand is that light stimulating our eyes is what signals our brain to wake or sleep. So that's why, like with daylight savings or jet lag, that kind of thing, is you can't just put your child to bed early. To start doing that, you have to wake them up earlier so their internal clock can shift backwards. And so then their sleep period will be the certain hours that you want. And then if you let that waver too much, it's really hard to get back at the right bedtime. And then you're just basically not tired at 9 o'clock, even though you're supposed to be, kind of thing, or you're supposed to be going to bed at that time. And then when you add sports in, I'm not sure if your kids do sports, mine do. Sometimes we're not even getting home till 8:30 at night. So that makes it really challenging too.
How should sports families handle that when they're not getting home until late and then the kids still have homework to do?
Oh, and they're also still revved up.
Yeah,
because they just had sports. So
they
might be tired, but they're not sleepy tired.
Yeah. And that's tough. I mean, you're probably not going to have perfection, but planning ahead sometimes helps. Sometimes, we just have to plan ahead with food and that kind of thing, because if you wait till you get home and then cook something, obviously that's too late. And then catch up on the weekend, just like adults do. We're working all week, we're tired, and we get tired. So I would say try not to let the bedtime go super late on the weekend, even though you're kind of letting loose, but you really want them to catch up on the weekend. And just because you go to bed later doesn't mean you're going to sleep in later automatically, because again, it takes some of us a few days for our internal clock to catch up to what our new sleep schedule is. And then by that time it's Monday and you have to get back to school.
So with that, I have two questions that you just made me think about real quick there. For the really littles, the ones that aren't quite in school yet, so we're thinking baby, toddler, maybe even a preschooler, what do you think would be an ideal bedtime for them if you need to have them up and ready to go so you can get out the door to work? So I'm going to guess going to work is around 7 or 8 in the morning. Yes. What would probably be an ideal bedtime for that one? And then I have a follow-up one.
Yeah. So most babies need 11 to 12 hours of sleep at night. There are some differences. Sometimes usually the minimum is 10 hours, but that usually means they're napping more during the day. So if you need them out the door and you need to leave by 7 and you need them up by 6:30, I would say around 6:30 or 7 would be your bedtime. For toddlers, similar. Again, most of them need 10 to 12 hours of sleep at night until we get closer to when they're going to drop the nap, which is usually 3 to 4 years old on average. And then when they drop the nap, they need to increase their nighttime sleep again, back up to usually 11 to 12 until about 4 or 5 years old. So you're looking at a bedtime of around 7 p.m. most of their baby and toddler life.
Okay.
Unless you can go to work a little bit later in the morning.
I know, right? That's a tough one. You can only adjust things so much.
Yes, exactly.
So out of curiosity, do you have like a recommendation? Because I go through this, like we talked about earlier, my kids are a little bit older. My daughter's going into 8th grade. My son's going into high school.
Yes.
And my daughter is constantly trying to convince me that she is capable of setting her own bedtime and her own wake time.
That is a good question.
So I'm curious, with your background in sleep, do you have an opinion on this, on how can parents gauge, okay, my kid is old enough to kind of take the reins on this somewhat, not where we totally like give up all of our rights to say anything as a parent, but where we let our child lead us. Now, maybe it's not an age. I do think it's probably not an age, but
right.
How can we figure out that they're ready to start taking the lead on this?
I know. Well, I'm not an expert in teenagers since, I work with mostly babies and toddlers, but having a teenager of my own, he's 15. And I would say mostly he's setting his own bedtime now, but we have to see what happens when school goes back. But I still would have a time when Wi-Fi goes off because, like you can be on Facebook for an hour and you're like, where did the time go? So I know he's similar. But now at the same time, in my opinion, that we are also trying to raise them to be able to go to college and be able to live life and actually get to class on time. So in some ways, if we keep the rules too tight for too long, they're not learning those lessons. And then when they go to college, they're probably going to really struggle. And that's a pricier lesson to learn. So, for us, we've kind of experimented during the summer of, okay, well, you can kind of set your own bedtime. And I've seen, like, maturity wise, now he has to get up for cross country conditioning and he has kind of like a volunteer job he's doing this summer. And so I can see just kind of how he's starting to think. He's still not getting enough sleep, but he's starting to see, okay, I do have to go to bed a bit earlier. And then he sets his own alarm. That's the other thing, trying to make them self-sufficient. So I had a lot of trouble waking him up. So I bought this alarm that has a vibrating thing under the mattress and it's really loud. I think it's actually for people that can't hear. But it works great for him. And
my daughter needs that.
So that way it's kind of up to him. It's his responsibility to get up. And that has worked well because cross country is something he loves to do, whereas school isn't. So that's going to be a little bit tricky. But like you said, I don't think it's a certain age, but you want to start giving them more responsibility and seeing the natural consequences. If your daughter, especially if your daughter likes getting good grades and she starts to see how tired she is during the day, hopefully she's going to start making those decisions for herself.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. It's going to be a little bit of a, okay, well, if you feel like you want to start taking this over, these are the expectations that I would have.
Yeah.
And then we come to like an agreement on this is what we're going to try going forward. But it's tricky. It's because man, she's trying to convince me that midnight's okay during the school year.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
I'm going to say big NO on that
or
one.
Even,
let's try again.
Even just like educating kids on like what tired looks like.
Right, that overtired thing.
A lot of kids don't know, like when my kids were toddlers, my daughter in particular, she would get so tired. We had this baby bouncer and she would just go bouncing up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. It was like, it wasn't because she was hyper. It was because she was tired.
Yes.
And it's so counterintuitive.
It is. Yeah. People used to see my son get into that hyper mode too. And they would say, oh, he has so much energy. I'm like, no, he's overtired. He needs a nap, So it was crazy.
It's so funny because it's a generational thing too, because I dealt a lot with my parents and my in-laws and they're like, oh, well, they just weren't tired yet. They were like running around like crazy.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that the research or the knowledge had changed so much from when we were raised to now raising our kids, but I'm guessing it did.
Well, just like knowledge. So our bodies release hormones to fight fatigue, and that gives us our second wind. So if you're working on a school paper, like when we were in college, or working late, our bodies purposely does that and, gives us a boost so that we can make it through. So once they get that second wind, that's why overtired children have so much trouble settling down and going to sleep, because they've gotten that second wind and you're too late, basically. So you want to catch them before they get that.
Catch them before the second wind. That is really good advice. I need to tell my sister that. Actually, my nephew just turned 2. So she needs this right now.
Yes, definitely.
She totally needs it. Well, Nicole, it has been so wonderful getting to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us. I know so many parents can benefit from these sleep tips and be more rested themselves as well.
Yes, well, you're welcome. I've been happy to be here.
So Nicole was a wealth of information. She is somebody that I wish I would have had when my kids were toddler and babies, because I didn't sleep.
Oh, I know, right? I mentioned in the episode, my kids did not sleep. My Bible at that time, because I was doing early intervention and I was fortunate enough to meet this person, was Dr. Jody Mendel. And she wrote the book Sleeping Through the Night. It was so different because Baby Wise was what was popular at that time. The whole let your kid cry it out. And I liked the fact that she was a lot like what Nicole was saying, just there's different temperaments for different kids, different families, do what works. But you brought up a really good point about sleep and how that affects our kids.
There was one thing I said in the interview about knowing this research between sleep and school behavior. And I had no idea where I pulled that nugget from. So we did a little research for you. And this comes from The Self-Driven Child by William Stixrud and Ned Johnson. And it says that when sleep restriction weakens the connections between the prefrontal cortex of your brain, and the prefrontal cortex is all the decision making. That's where all the decision making happens. And the amygdala is your stress response and the things that are like, oh my gosh, fire, run! It's everything that's high anxiety. So sleep restriction weakens that, and that results in poor emotional regulation.
So what I'm hearing is if kids or adults don't get enough sleep, we kind of melt down, break down, and we can't
self-regulate. It's harder to self-regulate.
Oh, and that could explain a lot of breakdowns at school.
Yeah, that explains a lot of mood disorders too. Lack of sleep has also been linked to ADHD, making the symptoms worse of ADHD. But it's fascinating. It's a fascinating subject. Another book I highly recommend that I did read is called Why We Sleep: Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams by Matthew Walker. And I just read that and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get my husband to sleep more. But there's sleep is so powerful. It seems like such a simple thing to do, and yet we all struggle with it.
It does. We have another great podcast episode with Kelly Meyerson who talks about sleep as well, and the importance of finding that self-care time without stealing from your sleep. We'll add that to the show notes. So huge, amazing stuff. I loved talking to Nicole. She brought up a lot of great things, especially my favorite about planning. Yeah. You got to plan that transition into school, changing that sleep schedule. Nobody expects you to suddenly just change your sleep schedule the next day. We've got to give our kids time to do that.
Got to give our kids time. Yeah. And if you are kind of a loosey-goosey planner like I am, Bree looks at me. She's
laughing.
Really?
I'm laughing because it is true. I write it out on the calendar. I may be late to everything, but at least it's on my calendar.
I'm a little more loosey-goosey. And just think a week before school, be like, hey guys, it's a week before school. Let's go to bed earlier.
Yeah. See, and my problem is if I don't write it down, I will forget. And I'll be like, oh crap, school starts tomorrow. We never adjusted our sleep schedule.
Well, I think for sleep, I'm so aware of sleep that I'm like, oh, the sleep's off.
See, and the truth is I'm not. And and I think that's a big thing about our personalities we've talked about before. I just, whenever I get to sleep, whenever I wake up, it's just kind of how it works.
I'm like, don't bother me. I need to sleep.
I'll admit it's a bit of a stressful way to live. It is. So
it's stressful when you are the sleeper and you're in a house of non-sleepers and no one will go to bed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can only imagine.
Well, remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and we will talk to you later.
Thanks so much for stopping by. Are you looking for something to listen to with your whole family? Then check out 6 Minutes, Produced and created by Gen Z Media. With over 200 twisty, cliffhanger-filled episodes, 6 Minutes tells the story of 11-year-old Holiday who is pulled from the icy waters with no memory of who she is or where she came from.
3 years ago, Brinley Pasternak helped the Anders family uncover the truth about Holiday's past. Now she'll need them to help her find the truth about hers. In 6 Minutes Out of Time, the long-awaited sequel, Cyrus Anders is found unconscious near the mysterious Elixir Academy in Florida, and Brinley learns the school may have a shocking connection to her missing mother.
Dive in now and get the most downloaded family audio adventure in history. Follow 6 Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free with the GZM family subscription.